They laughed at him, right there in the middle of a courtroom like it was some kind of joke. A 12-year-old kid from the wrong side of the tracks, standing up in a room full of suits and smug faces, holding nothing but a ratty spiral notebook and a name no one respected. The judge leaned back in his chair, polished mahogany, elevated like a throne, and smirked as if the boy was an insect buzzing too close to the gavel. Your mother is guilty. Son, sit down before you embarrass yourself. Yeah, he said that, out loud, in front of everyone. But what no one in that room realized, not the judge, not the district attorney, not even the tired public defender halfway scrolling through her phone, was that this kid, this so-called nobody, had come prepared to flip the whole damn system upside down. His name was Elijah Monroe, Harlem-born, raised in the cracked shadows of East 145th, where busted hydrants were summer pools and every alley whispered secrets louder than sirens. His mother, Carla, was the glue that held him together. Worked 16-hour days as a senior file clerk for a law firm that claimed to stand for justice, but folded like a house of cards when money got involved. Carla didn't steal those confidential files, but her boss, a man named Bradford Keller, white, Yale-educated, smooth as oil on marble, said she did. Claimed she was acting suspiciously near the firm's secure file room, spinning a story so thin you could see daylight through it. No investigation, no questions, just a phone call. And a raid. Elijah had been tying his shoes for school when they came. 5 officers, 1 battering ram, 0 hesitation. They tore through their apartment like it owed them rent, ripped open drawers, flipped over the couch, knocked down family photos like they were garbage. And then they dragged Carla out in cuffs. She looked right at him and whispered, "Call Auntie Roe." But Elijah couldn't move, couldn't breathe, just stood there, his body frozen while his whole world was pushed into the back of a squad car. At the station, Carla was handed a public defender named Denise Fowler, red eyes, stained blouse, a Bluetooth earpiece that never left her head. She glanced at the police report once and said, "They found the files in your desk. This is bad. Best thing now is to plead out." When Carla tried to explain the files were planted, Denise just sighed. "You people always say that." Elijah sat across from his mom in Rikers, separated by scratched glass and metal bars. She pressed her hand to the glass and said, "I didn't do this, baby, but nobody's gonna believe me over him." And in that moment, Elijah made a promise he'd make them believe. Now, most kids might have cried, maybe even quit. But Harlem teaches you early pain sharpens your vision, makes the world clearer, not softer. Elijah packed a bag and moved in with Miss Lottie down the block, then walked straight to the New York Public Library like it was a battleground. He didn't know exactly what he was looking for, but he knew it had to be in books, laws, cases, rules, loopholes. He lived in that marble hall, between lions older than the city itself, copying notes until his fingers cramped. He didn't eat unless someone handed him something. Didn't stop unless the building closed. Ms. Ortega, the librarian, caught him one night buried under 6 volumes of criminal procedure. "You studying for the bar or just lost in the wrong section?" "Sweetheart," she asked. Elijah just looked up and said, "My mom's innocent, and I'm going to prove it." Something shifted in her eyes. Maybe it was her own story that flashed behind them. She handed him a granola bar, leaned down and whispered, "Then you better study harder. They don't fight fair." From that moment on, she kept a thermos of tea behind the desk just for him. Elijah devoured legal texts like comic books, memorized Fourth Amendment case law, cross-referenced search warrant precedents, annotated custody procedures. But he knew he needed more. He needed someone who saw what happened. That's when he found Lionel. Mr. Lionel Jacobs was the night janitor at Keller's firm Graybeard. Quiet steps, eyes like broken glass. Elijah tracked him down outside a bodega, notebook clutched to his chest. "You Carla's boy?" Lionel asked, almost like he already knew. When Elijah nodded, Lionel let out a breath, looked both ways, and said, I saw him. Keller. He took the files and stuffed them in his own briefcase. Acted like it was nothing. Then he looked me dead in the face and said, "Clock out early, Lionel." Like he owned me. "But I got a record," Lionel added. "I go up against a guy like him. They'll burn me before they hear me." That kind of fear, it don't come from one man. It's passed down like trauma. Elijah knew that too well. He went back to Denise Fowler, waited outside her office for hours. When she finally looked up, he said, "I got a witness." She rolled her eyes. "You're not a lawyer, kid. Stay in your lane." So he found someone who would listen. At a community legal workshop, a law student named Jamal Clark was teaching basic rights. Elijah sat through the whole session, then started quoting suppression standards like they were song lyrics. Jamal blinked. "Where'd you learn all that?" Elijah opened his notebook. By the time Jamal reached page 3, he was shaking his head. This is law school level work, you 12. 12 and pissed, Elijah replied. Jamal couldn't represent Carla, but he offered to coach Elijah through trial prep, and that changed everything. The day of the pre-trial hearing was brutal. New York summer heat so thick it clung to your bones. Elijah wore his only dress shirt, sat in the gallery with Jamal, trying to look invisible. Carla was brought in, shackled, eyes hollow. Judge Ronan Fielding, nicknamed the Blade, walked in like a storm cloud in robes. His face said it all, case closed before it even opened. The DA rattled off charges. Denise didn't say a word. So Elijah stood up. "Your Honor, the search of our home was conducted without proper chain of custody or judicial authorization. That's a violation under State v. Magruder." The room froze. Fielding squinted. "Who the hell are you, Elijah Monroe? And I have standing under the Family Court Act to speak on behalf of my mother." The judge laughed. "Sit down, boy. Go home and play Xbox." But Elijah kept talking, and that laughter faded. News spread fast. A 12-year-old quoting statutes in open court. That kind of story doesn't stay quiet. It hit the local press, then the state feeds. Suddenly, doors opened. Rebecca Lane, an investigative journalist with a reputation for rattling cages, found Elijah at the library. She listened to his notes and said, "I want in." So did Professor Adebayo, retired constitutional scholar from NYU. So did Rachel Kent, Fielding's former clerk. They formed a team, dug deep. What they found wasn't just disturbing, it was radioactive. Turns out, Keller had gambling debts. Fielding had financial ties to private prison investors. They'd been coordinating jury pools for years, ensuring favorable outcomes in cases involving their preferred clients. Rebecca even wired herself and recorded a secret meeting Fielding, Keller, and the DA plotting exactly how to frame Carla to avoid a scandal. They called her a pawn piece. Trial day came with no mercy. Judge Fielding tried to block everything, excluded their evidence, dismissed Lionel's testimony, even tried to replace the jury. But Elijah anticipated every move. He called out Brady violations, demanded full disclosure. When the prosecution introduced faked emails, Elijah pushed back with timestamps, metadata, and precedents that made their lies unravel in real time. And then Rebecca played the tape. In that courtroom, with cameras rolling and jaws dropping, the voices of the judge, the DA, and Keller echoed off the walls, plotting to destroy Carla's life. Fielding turned pale. Security froze. The bailiff took a step back. Outside, the live stream picked up the sound of state investigators walking through the doors. Judge Fielding was suspended on the spot. So was the DA. Keller was indicted and later confessed on the record that he framed Carla because, quote, "No one's gonna believe a single mother from Harlem over me." Yeah, he actually said that. Carla was released that day. She hugged Elijah so hard he couldn't breathe. A month later, they received a settlement large enough to start something real. They called it the Monroe Project, a legal outreach program for families steamrolled by the system. 6 months in, 32 cases were reopened and overturned. Rebecca won an award. Jamal graduated and joined as their first official staff attorney. Lionel, He's now their building manager. Keeps a photo of Carla and Elijah in his office. And Elijah, he's still in public school, still reading, still fighting. One morning, a little girl came in, 10 years old, folder clutched in both hands. "My dad didn't do it," she said, "but no one believes me." Elijah smiled. "I do. Now let's show them why. Truth is power doesn't always wear a badge or a robe. Sometimes it carries a notebook with a broken spine and a kid too stubborn to quit." So here's the real question. What would you do if the world told you to sit down, but you knew you were right? Have you ever seen someone stand up like that against the odds, against the system? Drop your story in the comments. Smash that like button if you believe no one's too small to speak truth, and subscribe for more stories just like this. Because justice isn't a privilege, it's a fight. And sometimes the smallest voices echo the loudest.